Hey guys, it's Corporate EVS, and it's almost Halloween, which is easily my favorite time of year for the movies, and the decorations are cool, and the whole feel of the holiday. It's not technically a holiday, I guess, but the whole thing, it's just a blast. And everybody on TV is playing horror movie after horror movie, and it's just awesome. But there's a whole other side to it that I'm going to talk about today, and I'm going to do a top 5 list of games to play during Halloween time. These are just some games that are good, potentially scary, and festive. Not necessarily older games and not necessarily newer games. It's a good mix. There's only 5 because, honestly, a top 10 list, okay, I've done them before. But this is a more focused list, so I only made it a top 5, but it's 5 good choices, so let me know what you think, and we'll start with number 5. Number 5 is Resident Evil 4. This is the Wii edition. Absolutely excellent video game right here. One of the first Wii games I ever got, and it's still one of my favorites. I remember being absolutely stunned at how long it took me to beat this game. Most shooters are, nowadays you play a shooter, it takes 10 hours sometimes. I remember my save file said 19 hours, and that doesn't count the time you spent on a life that you died. So, I spent a ton of time on this game, and I absolutely loved every minute of it. One of my favorite Wii games, and a good game to play this time of year. Okay, number 4 is a series that's really, really close to me. One of my favorite series of all time, Doom, and more specifically, Doom 3 for this countdown list. This is both of the Xbox versions, the standard and the collector's edition. This game scared the living hell out of me when I first played it. And it's unfortunate that I haven't really given it another go since I've played it. But the big reason is my Xbox 360 simply won't read this disc. I don't know why. But, yeah, Doom 3, this game is terrifying. It's one of the best games in the survival horror genre that I've ever played. And make no mistake, the classic Doom games were a great action game, but they weren't really scary. This is more scary than action, but it's still a lot of fun. Probably in my top 5, maybe even top 3 games on the original Xbox. This game's an absolute blast to play. Alright, moving into number 3, going a little bit classic now, is the Ghouls and Ghosts and Ghosts and Goblins series. Now, my favorite of the bunch is Ghouls and Ghosts on the Genesis. I think this is the best. It's the one I had the most fun with. The NES version is a classic. The Super Nintendo version is actually a different game. It's a little more refined. But it just doesn't have the charm, I don't think, that this one does. These early Genesis titles really get to me. And Ghouls and Ghosts is one of the funnest in the series, if not the most fun. And it's easily one of my favorite games to play during this time of year. And that says a lot because I'm really not a fan of these games. I like them, they're good, but I never really got into it. But for this list, we'll say Ghouls and Ghosts at the number 3 spot. Number 2 on the list is actually 2 games, also on the Genesis, 2 absolute classic games, Splatterhouse 2 and 3. Wow, these games are awesome. You essentially are this character, the guy with the mask here, going around beating stuff up. It's a classic beat-em-up, full of gore, and each one of these games is, well, these are the 2. There is the first one on the Turbo Graphics, and I believe on the Famicom Disk System, if I'm not mistaken, but yeah, these 2 are really great games. They offer a gameplay that you've seen, but it's in a way that you haven't seen. You know, the gore and some of the cool effects are really make this a standout title. In fact, number 3 has a warning on the front that says this game contains scenes of depicting graphic violence which may not be suitable for younger players. Um, so, I mean, what do you say about Splatterhouse? These games are unfortunately a little hard to come by, but if you're gonna go for cart only, they're pretty cheap. Probably you can probably get them both for under 30. But complete in box, you're talking a little bit more. Um, and are they worth that much? Probably not. But if you can get your hands on them, they are a lot of fun to play, especially during Halloween. Okay, before we get to number 1, I just want to have a few honorable mentions. Let's start with a more current generation title by id Software, Rage. Now, there's very little to do with Halloween in this game, but this game is scary. Make no mistake. This game is frightening. The game is an open world game, basically, but you go to little parts in the game that are more of a corridor shooter, like what you would find in Doom 3, for example. And id is the absolute, they are the best at mixing terror, scary with music, the whole atmosphere. They are the absolute best at making games feel authentically scary, and Rage is no exception. A few more quick notable titles. These are for the original Xbox, and these are surprising games from one of my favorite series of all time, Evil Dead. This is the second one in the series, and this is the third. The first one is absolute garbage, so don't even play it. But these two are actually good. I've played through this one, really enjoyed it, had a lot of fun. It's better than you would think, I'll say that. It's no masterpiece, but it's pretty good. And then Evil Dead Regeneration is the third in the series, and unfortunately the last. We haven't had a sequel since. But this one is more refined. It's actually probably the best of the series, though I haven't gotten all the way through it. And the best part about these, they both, Bruce Campbell lends his voice to the character Ash, so that adds a little bit more charm to it. And finally, the last little honorable mention I wanted to mention is this is related to the Ghosts and Goblins series, but this is Demon's Crest, and this is the little red devil from Ghosts and Goblins. And this is a fun game. It's sort of an action side-scroller. Again, nothing too Halloween related, but it's still a lot of fun. If you can get this one, definitely give it a shot. It's a lot of fun. Okay, time for number 1. Now, there's probably a glaring series in the whole, a glaring hole in my countdown that you may have noticed, or may not, but the best series, or the best game to play during Halloween is Castlevania. Here I have 3 and 4. Now, I'm going to actually focus on 3. 4 is insanely good. 4 is one of my favorite games ever. But 3 is unique, and there's a few reasons why. First of all, there are more than one playable characters. As you defeat some bosses, you can actually play as them. That's a really cool feature. There's also branching paths. You don't have to follow the same path every time, which adds to a little bit of the replayability. Now, what really makes this game stand out is how into the whole Dracula thing it is. Now, obviously Dracula's in the game, but there are a ton of other classic horror monsters that you can play as. Not necessarily play as, but that are in the game. Some that you can play as, though, the coolest is Alucard, which I believe is Dracula's son. I'm no expert, but I'm pretty sure Alucard is Dracula's son, and it's also Dracula spelled backwards, so... So, yeah, Castlevania 3 is an absolute underrated gem. Most people usually revert back to the first one when they're talking about some of the classic NES games, but I gotta tell you, I think 3 is the best one on the NES. And then, not to be outdone, of course, number 4 really sort of put a staple on the whole series. So, Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse, one of the best games to play, and especially during Halloween. Some absolutely excellent games, and they'll keep you busy. They'll keep you busy. So stay tuned for my next video, Halloween related, where I mix a little Sega versus Nintendo in. So we'll see you then, guys, and thanks for watching. Hey guys, it's CorbettEVS, and it's almost Halloween, which is easily my favorite time of year for the movies, and decorations are cool, and the whole feel of the holiday. It's not technically a holiday, I guess, but the whole thing, it's just a blast. And everybody on TV is playing horror movie after horror movie, and it's just awesome. But there's a whole other side to it that that I'm going to talk about today, and I'm going to do a top 5 list of games to absolutely excellent video game right here. One of the first Wii games I ever got, and it's still one of my favorites. I remember being absolutely stunned at how long it took me to beat this game. Most shooters are, I mean, what, nowadays you play a shooter, it takes 10 hours sometimes. Play during Halloween time. These are just some games that are good, potentially scary, and festive. Not necessarily older games and not necessarily newer games. It's a good mix. There's only 5 because, honestly, you know, a top 10 list, okay, I've done them before, but this is a more focused list, so I only made it a top 5, but it's 5 good choices, so let me know what you think, and we'll start with number 5. Number 5 is Resident Evil 4. This is the Wii edition.